If you are a teacher, parent, administrator, student, and/or anyone who loves reconnecting children with nature, and you want to figure out how to cultivate learning gardens and nature-based curriculum, then this is the podcast, the Outdoor Classrooms podcast. My name is Victoria Hackett. I am the founder of Outdoor-Classrooms.com and the Secret Gardens Nature Classes. I love witnessing the magic that happens when children are playfully learning outdoors. Observing the return of wonder and curiosity when children are interacting with nature is pure magic. This is the podcast that is going to help you capture children's interest and give you not only inspiration, but some real life strategies that are going to help you figure out how to use the outdoor space, your outdoor space, as a teaching tool, so you can enlighten the playful learning experience for young children. Welcome to our Outdoor Classrooms community. Did you know in our Circle membership we have included 4 seasonal masterclasses? They were developed in response to the demand for our popular Exploring Nature in Winter masterclass. These masterclasses explore the significance of bringing children outside in the various seasons into the learning gardens. These masterclasses tackle barriers like I'm not a naturalist, we don't have enough time, it's too rainy, it's too snowy, it's too hot, that both parents and educators commonly run into during each of these seasons. A global network of like-minded individuals, a collection of children's literature with summary themes, outdoor activities centered around that particular season, and so much more are offered in these masterclasses. These encounters will change the way you think about teaching. With so many opportunities for learning, you'll also gain the confidence to try new things. So let's get outdoors. In this new season, no matter what season you are listening to this, we have 1 masterclass per season, and we'd love for you to join us. Mandy is a mother, yoga teacher, hobby naturalist, outdoors woman, gardener, and passionate early childhood educator. A spiritual connection to Mother Earth and becoming a mother brought her to the world of nature-based education. Mandy has an associate's degree in early childhood education and is currently working towards a degree in social work. She is passionate about social emotional learning, mindfulness, empathy, self-expression, movement, creativity, nature, and community building. She weaves her background in dance, yoga, and mindfulness into her teaching. She has an innate curiosity and a love of learning, constantly bringing new threads of wisdom to weave into her philosophical tapestry. Mandy has had a variety of roles at the Boston Outdoor Preschool Network, including lead teacher, Forest Day leader, and curriculum coach. In her role as a curriculum coach, Mandy mentors teachers in developing and implementing their emergent curriculums in a way that balances child-led play-based learning and intentionally curating experiences and lessons that foster deeper learning. With a focus on social emotional development and nature connections, she aims to build a strong foundation for learning in all domains. Through supporting each teacher, her work strengthens at Boston Outdoor Preschool Network as a whole. In her spare time, Mandy enjoys dancing, photography, and exploring natural spaces. Without further ado, Mandy Slavik, the Equity Programs Coordinator at the Boston Outdoor Preschool Network.
Hello, Mandy. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. I am so excited to learn about the Boston Outdoor Preschool Network and your forest days. And so before we get into all of that, I would love for you to tell us a little bit about you and what brought you to this chapter.
Sure. I found my way here. It was just like this beautiful confluence of things coming together for me. I have always been involved in education and teaching in some capacity. And then I ended up finding my way to early childhood education when my son was born and I became a mother. And I knew that taking my teaching in this direction was just a real calling and a passion of mine, and working with kids and transitioning in that direction. And so when my son was born, I went off and did my degree in early childhood education and started moving into that field. And I also have always just really been a person who is connected to nature and the outdoors. I don't even want to say that I'm like an outdoorsy person, but just that I recognize the connection to nature and all living beings and interbeing. And so for me, nature is just a part of life that I recognize as a part of life. And I was working at one point as a Tinker Garden leader, and Tinker Garden is, this lovely little program taking kids and their parents or their family members outside for 90 minutes a week. And I knew that I wanted to do something more with that. And then I was walking around my neighborhood and I saw a flyer advertising Boston Outdoor Preschool Network, their very first year. It was their very first season. And I was just blown away. I thought, wow, these are all these things that I'm really passionate about and so called to doing. And they've come together in this beautiful package that somebody else has presented. And so I felt very called to that. And so I connected with Sarah Bessie, who's one of the founders and our executive director of Boston Outdoor Preschool Network. And I have been working there for 3.5 years. I'm currently in the position of Equity Programs Coordinator, which I am so excited about. I am also a lead teacher and have been curriculum coach there. So I've worn many hats, worked with lots of different populations, but I'm really most excited about the work that I'm doing this year as Equity Programs Coordinator. Mm-hmm. So this position is a position that has been afforded to us through a partnership with Commonwealth Corps. Commonwealth Corps is a state-funded internship program through Mass Service Alliance that awards funded positions to nonprofit organizations to strengthen communities and to address critical needs and to increase volunteerism. And a big piece of that is equity. So I am currently doing my service year of Commonwealth Corps. And so we have this opportunity this year to really focus on our equity programs.
Can you tell us just a little bit, before you move on, a little bit more, if people don't know what the Boston Outdoor Preschool Network is, can you just elaborate more on that?
Sure. So we are a preschool that is running in the city of Boston. We currently have 4 locations, so we are expanding to have, I may be incorrect, but I believe 7 locations starting fall of 2024. Our first location started at the Arnold Arboretum, which is in the Jamaica Plain and Roslindale neighborhoods of Boston. So we are in Boston proper, and we have our half-day preschool programs still running. We have multiple at each location, and we also have a full-day EEC licensed program, which runs at the Arnold Arboretum. And so we have been offering the half-day and full-day preschool programs since our inception. We're, I believe, in year 5 of operation. And we also offer summer programs, which is kind of more like a camp style. We also offer break week programs, and we are really passionate about expanding access to nature-based early childhood education. So the organization as a whole is passionate about that, and I absolutely am passionate about that.
You're the equity coordinator. Mm-hmm. And so what in that scope is Forest Days? How does that play a role in your program? And you're also, I also want to talk about just the fact that you're in the city. You're in Boston, which is the city. So that those sort of, how can you have a forest school program in a city, or explain the forest school programs and the essence of bringing the city into that?
Right. So maybe I'll take a step back and just explain how Forest Days came to be, where the need was. So I was working at Boston Outdoor Preschool Network in our full day classes outside at the Arboretum all day long. And then I would leave work and I would go pick up my son from the public school down the road. And I started to notice and like really notice the ways that these children were different at the end of the day. And I really saw that these children who had been in the indoor public school setting all day long at the same age, they were all preschool aged, that these kids who had been indoors all day long, who didn't have access to movement and nature and play outside, how they really struggled because of that. There was so much dysregulation of all of these children, and speaking with the teachers, just so many behavioral challenges because they are expected to sit indoors for 7 hours a day at 4 years old. And so as I got to know our school, my son's school more and more, I realized how just devastating it was to me that these children didn't have access to outdoor play, didn't have access to nature. Even on the playgrounds of the school, there isn't really, I mean, the ground is astroturf and concrete. There's not even any grass to touch when they do go out for recess. And unfortunately, more often than not, in the cool months, they don't go out for recess even at any point. So they weren't getting out. And so I felt this, pull as a person who straddled both worlds, as a lead teacher at the Boston Outdoor Preschool Network and as a parent at this public school. I thought, I can be this person in between to catalyze some change. And I really, truly believe that everybody, and especially our children, have the right to access nature, right? And these children weren't. And I know that the way that things exist currently in the state of Massachusetts is that nature-based early childhood education is unfortunately a privilege for people with the financial means and the socioeconomic means of different sorts. And there are so many barriers, and there's geographic barriers as well. And so, especially living in the city of Boston, we have green spaces in Roslindale neighborhood and Mattapan neighborhood and Jamaica Plain neighborhood, but they are not always safe green spaces. And so these children are not getting access to it at home. They're not getting access to it at school. So it became deeply important for me to make sure that these public school children also had access to this beautiful thing that's in their neighborhood that, should not be reserved for the privileged families. And so that was sort of the need that I saw and the beginning of me sort of pulling this together and initiating this. But yes, in the city, we certainly have beautiful parts of our city, but we don't have a lot of access to nature in a lot of the neighborhoods, and again, safe access. And so we do have the Arnold Arboretum, which is affiliated with Harvard University. It is a beautiful space. I forget how many acres it is, but it's huge, and it's beautiful at all times of the year, and it's home to so many animals. And it's this beautiful resource that people in the surrounding neighborhoods should have access to. So we are very fortunate that we have a partnership with the Arnold Arboretum and can use their space. It would not be possible without the Arboretum. They're our first location where we began and still operate in year 5. So yes, nature-based early education and forest days opportunities absolutely can exist in the city. The model that we have, I shouldn't say the model we have, this program that I currently run, the Forest Days program at 2 schools now, is inspired by a program that was started, I believe, in Philadelphia several years back. And Sarah Bessey, our executive director, sort of brought this up as I started to talk about, what I was seeing at the school and how I wanted to make a difference. And she said, oh, there's these great Forest Days program that I've been reading about. And so she shared some of that literature with me, and it was really inspiring. And these sort of founding people were doing it in Philadelphia. So if they can do it in Philadelphia, absolutely we can do it in Boston. And I know that there are similar programs in the city of Baltimore. I'm not personally connected with them, but I do know they exist. So yes, it's possible, but not only is it possible, it's vitally important. It's vitally important that the families who share these green spaces that are safe to use claim that. And especially in the part of the city where we are, it's a very ethnically diverse neighborhood, and there are lots of more recent immigrated families. And what we observe is that often the green spaces that we do have are really visited by white families. And so it adds to this sort of under the current dialogue that, nature is a white people thing. And that really is just not. Like, we are all part of nature, regardless of our skin color and what country our families came from or what language our families spoke. We're all connected. We're all part of this, and we should all have access to it. And so I think being in the city, having Black and brown neighborhoods abutting these spaces, I want these families to know that this is a beautiful space that they can also use, and that these children, in the classrooms that I have at the school, I have 3 classrooms. All of the classrooms are very ethnically mixed. And I want all of these children to grow up knowing that nature is their birthright. And this is a space where they can come and explore and play and be connected to the earth, to themselves, and to others.
It's beautiful. So the forest, that was the birth of this energy. Yours was the birth of the forest days. And so you approached your schools that you were working with that we are going to do this on Fridays. So how does it work?
Yeah. So I spoke with Sarah Bessie, and I spoke with the principal of my son's public school to sort of test the waters, and they were both very excited. I also spoke, I brought in some parents that I knew and got their sort of temperature check. I actually even spoke with the mayor of Boston briefly on the playground and checked in with people and said, like, do we all think this is possible? Like, can we make this happen? And so I brought all of these great people together and we decided, let's try it. Let's do a pilot. This sounds like a great idea. Let's do a pilot. And so now we are in our second year of operation, which is really exciting. So we started our pilot in the fall of 2022. And we have 3 classes at the public school that we originated at. It's called the Charles Sumner Elementary School in Roslindale neighborhood of Boston. And so we have 3 K1 or preschool aged classrooms. And each day I take a different class in the morning to the Arboretum, facilitate nature exploration and free play, which we can connect to their BPS curriculum. And then I bring them back indoors to their indoor classroom, and they resume their day there. Yeah. So each class gets 1 morning per week that they get to join the Arboretum and do their learning, exploring, and playing outdoors. And then I've just expanded to another school, and that one is on Fridays. And so that school, we also do the same thing. We take them 1 morning per week out into the woods, and it's very much the same. And it's beautiful to witness now, as I'm wrapping up my, second year of doing this, to witness how this has impacted the children. The initial pilot group of kids that I had from last year, which was 60-ish children in 3 different classes, they've now, advanced to K2. They're in kindergarten. And I still see them at the school pretty regularly as I'm picking up my son from school. And it has made such an impact. They come and they tell me all the time about, oh my gosh, Miss Mandy, last weekend I went to the Arboretum and, oh, Miss Mandy, I found a worm and I didn't step on it and I took care of it. And they, not only has this changed their relationship with nature, but it's also changed, I think, their interaction with others and the way that they can come and relate to other people, and just so much. And they still remember this a year later, from being 4 to being 5. And it's still something that they're thinking about at that age. And that's powerful. This is formative change for them, even in those few hours once per week.
Yeah.
Like it's really not a lot of time in the scope of their school week. If you consider how much time they spend indoors, it's a very small chunk of their week, but it is so impactful.
Yeah.
And I think another piece of it that is so impactful is that it connects, like it's realia. It's real life things that we can touch and smell and see that connect to what they're learning indoors. Mm-hmm. Right. And they can say, like right now, currently in the BPS curriculum for Focus on 4s, the unit is, I'm going to mess this up. It's like how things grow or things that grow, but it's all about growth and how humans grow and plants grow and all of that. And so, they're learning about this in the indoor classroom, but then they get outside with us and they get to actually see this happening and watch this happening. And like this week, it was noticing that the birds were doing different things and wondering about the birds' nests and what's happening there and what's growing inside of those nests. And so there's so many different ways that we can explore that in an outdoors environment that is really meaningful.
Yeah. And you talk a lot about it not being a field trip, and that it's a program that you're integrating into their existing curriculum, and that we don't want to just keep having that mindset of, oh, okay, here we are going to have this field trip. and that it is an integrated program where you are pulling out the standards and what they are
Right.
already learning and so on and so forth. So can you tell me a little bit more about where you pull that and how you lay out, I guess, curriculum to, I know you said it was a lot of play-based and
Mhm.
guidelines. Can you tell us a little bit more about anything
Sure.
that you follow to inspire your curriculum?
Right. So this has evolved and changed over the almost 2 years of Forest Days. And so right now, I know, so let me be clear about the Lens on Outdoor Learning is a framework and a tool that we use at Boston Outdoor Preschool Network in our outdoor full-time and half-day preschool classes. This being a separate program and a partnership program between, the public school and us, it's important that we also recognize the state learning standards.
Mm-hmm.
And I can talk about the Lens on Outdoor Learning endlessly with the public school, but they're going to say we have these standards that we value. And so what I do is I look first at the Focus on Fours BPS curriculum, Boston Public Schools curriculum, and I look at that unit and I look at every week the curriculum that they have. And I think about how I can tie that into the outdoors, right? And so that is where I start. I start with the BPS curriculum. And then because I have been a nature-based educator for a number of years, I'm able to say, well, this is a really great way that we can explore that outdoors, minimally as well, because I have to say, the Forest Days program is different than our traditional preschool programs in many ways. And one of them is that we don't have a base for our supplies. Everything we have for our day, we carry in like one kind of wagon to the school and back. So it's, we're really limited in our supplies. But as outdoor educators, we know that that's not a huge limitation, right? There's so many ways that we can still learn and play. So we don't have, I think, there has been in the first year of that program, there was a little bit of a challenge finding a balance between what the school expected us to be doing and what we were offering. I think it initially started out a little bit more like we're bringing in specific lesson plans, but we're doing them outside or we're using natural materials. And it has shifted more from that more structured lesson plan type of program to being more of a traditional Forest Days, which is the nature exploration. So an example is just last week, I had one of my classes at the Arboretum. And in the classroom, of course, they've been learning about growing and animals and all of this. And we were outside at the Arboretum and we were using our binoculars to observe a robin in her nest. And we were watching her sit on her eggs and she was going back and forth. And we were wondering, well, where is she going? And so we used our binoculars again to watch her as she was down on the ground. We noticed that she was pulling out worms. And so we started to learn about what she's eating, and we're learning about the food chain. And as we're observing this, I'm connecting that to what we talked about or the books that they have read, so remember that worm. And now they are, and now we're seeing this in real life. So I'm narrating as we are observing. And we also found a nest that was no longer in use on the ground, incidentally. And so we were able to, which appeals to my maternal heart this time of year, this kind of mid-spring. This is kind of a sidestep, but this springtime is such a spiritually powerful time of year for me for many reasons. This sort of like coming back to life and new energy, but also all of this maternal energy, all of these mama birds working so hard on their nests and tending to their eggs. And it's very powerful for me. And so finding nests, whenever I find a nest, it feels like a sacred experience for me. And so we found this beautiful nest and we were able to actually pass it around the classroom. the outdoor classroom, when we were sitting in circle and everybody had a chance to touch it and to look at it and examine how it is made and what are they doing. So, that whole day we were using our magnifying glasses to look closely at this teeny little nest and to think about how it was made and who made it and what are the materials and why it is being made. And now we're able to connect it to this robin bird in the tree with her eggs that we could touch. It was about 6 feet up in the air, and connecting this life cycle and now watching the mama bird pick the worms out of the ground and coming back to her nest. And so, nature, again, is that third teacher.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm always amazed.
Right. And it's so easy to do all of that learning there. And so, just thinking again, I start with BPS's focus on forest curriculum, and I use that as, I will say, like guidance and inspiration for what I want to tune the children into once we get to the Arboretum. And I also think about what's happening seasonally, right? What's happening weather-wise that day, right? And so it really is this kind of like balancing act of like thinking about the state standards, thinking about their curriculum, but also having the flexibility of it being somewhat emergent still.
Yeah.
It really is this balance between their curriculum and an emergent curriculum.
Oh, I have so many questions. So my next question is, what about educators? I work with a lot of educators. And what about educators who are not considering themselves a nature-based educator, but they want to be teaching outdoors? And their big question is time, first of all, but aside from the time is, how do I connect it? If I'm not a nature-based educator, how can I connect this without just teaching what I'm teaching indoors, outdoors? How can I connect it to my curriculum? Do you have any tips again, looking at your curriculum, any tips for someone that may not see themselves as a nature-based educator?
So are you talking about the educators who are part of the Forest Days programs, or all educators?
All educators, just
okay.
any educator that is, I'm hearing all about this, the benefits and all this stuff.
Right.
I'm a little nervous about going out, but I also have to meet all these standards.
Right.
Do you have a tip or two that you would suggest for them?
I think so. And I think, first of all, I want to say that I don't think there are any barriers to this. Like sometimes even, my colleagues or who are also nature-based educators or the public school teachers will sort of be like surprised that I'll know so much about something. And I'm certainly no expert, but they'll say like, wow, where did you learn all of this? And there isn't like a magical, I didn't have my PhD in like nature-based education or have some special, knowledge. It's not arcane. It's stuff that I have obviously learned traditionally through courses and through reading, but a lot of it is my own observation. It has been this experience of being a lifelong amateur naturalist and just being super curious about the world. And so I want to say that there are no barriers. It's not arcane. If you are curious, get out there,
Yeah, that's such a good answer. It's inquiry.
Get out there. It is like just wherever you live, like sit on even if it is your concrete balcony in your high-rise building and, watch the tree that you can see. And if you have a yard, when you get home from work, just sit in your yard quietly for 10 minutes and see what's happening around you. It's really so easy to just start observing and just start to build some comfort. Go out into your yard, take your socks off and walk around bare feet on the grass for a few moments. Like just start to build that comfort with nature and start to observe it. And I think sometimes, and I've certainly encountered folks like this, some folks do feel a discomfort in nature. Right. And it's hard for me to believe that people can feel that way. Honestly. But, I understand that there's a huge diversity of humans and their experiences. But if you are curious, I do recommend just getting out there, put your feet on the ground, look, stop and smell the roses.
Yeah.
Watch what's happening in your yard or in the park. Stop there for 5 minutes on your way to your bus stop or whatever it is. And really just spend those times. And then I think in the bigger picture, like cultivating that in the workplace environment, that's radical and so important. I want to say that I am receiving, I shouldn't say I started, there were a lot of people who started, but I initiated and catalyzed this initial Forest Days program in Roslindale. And I've now expanded to a second school in Jamaica Plain. I've had several other schools in Roslindale reach out to me and say, we've heard about this. We are interested in this. Can we start this dialogue? I've also had several families in neighborhoods around me, say, oh my gosh, you're Mandy Slavik. I've heard about this Forest Days program. This is so interesting. I also have had families say, we chose to come to Charles Sumner Elementary this year because of this program. And so they're all to say there is growing interest in this type of programming happening in public schools in the city. We're not some especially green or crunchy neighborhood. This is an average slice of the city. And there's a growing desire for this. And it's radical because the BPS system or public, I'm not just saying BPS, public school systems at large, generally, this isn't part of it, at least in this state. And I think that there's this tension because I know that the public school system is really heavily pushing academics, right? Heavily pushing that to a point where we've taken away a lot of other things. And I think it's a hard sell. It's a hard sell to, and I'm not going to give up on it. I'm still working on it. But, I think by and large, the big parts of the machine don't see this as valuable, but the families really see this as valuable. And a lot of the teachers are starting to see this as valuable. And fortunately, the principals at the schools that we partner with see this as valuable. And so this is a change that is coming about. This is a radical change that I truly believe needs to happen. It needs to happen for our children's well-being as individuals, and it needs to happen for our children's future world as a collective community. And so I encourage educators out there who are taking steps in this direction to just lead into that radicalness and just say, today I'm going to take my kids outside a little bit and to just take small steps in that direction, to cultivate your own curiosity on your own time and your comfort with nature, and then to take those little steps outside and to, whatever the curriculum is, now we're going to go outside and we're going to look at that. We're talking about in fours right now and focus on fours. We're looking at the life cycles of plants, and they planted seeds. Can we go outside and observe that? Can we just take a 10-minute walk, right? Yeah. And see where we see a seedling coming up and to look around us and where did this seed come from? And it's not, again, not arcane, not a mega challenge to start moving to that direction, just little bit by little bit. And if you are an educator who's passionate about affecting this change at a larger level, like Forest Days programming, or even integrating this into a curriculum at a school, please reach out to me. I'm looking for you.
That was my next question, was for those that are in this world and want to create more Forest Day schools or more experiences for children outdoors, you are listening to the right podcast. And any tips for those folks that just to be more catalysts for change, to create more forest schools?
I would say, what I'm in this stage right now of learning how important partnerships are. And so I would say partner with anybody that is like-minded individuals, partner with any organizations that could be, even if it's not, it's not a forest school or anything, but any organizations that support nature, community gardens, whatever it may be, and start to meet these people, bring these people together and start having dialogue. What can happen? What can change? Start finding the educators at your schools, at your public schools, the radical ones who are like, this is cool. I might like to try that, and start connecting with those folks. And also potentially partnering with organizations such as the Boston Outdoor Preschool Network. There are other outdoor preschools that operate in the state of Massachusetts. Some of them are already nestled within larger partnerships, but certainly reaching out to those folks as well. And I would also suggest attending professional development opportunities to network with these people, attending conferences. There aren't a lot of conferences for nature-based early educators, but there are some, and they're a great place to meet people like me, like us, who want to create this change. And like any other type of change, we're more powerful when we work together.
Yeah.
And so I think for a really long time in my life, and I still feel like this in some ways, I feel like I'm this salmon swimming upstream against the current of life in so many ways. And that can be, it can be isolating, but it can also be defeating, right?
Yeah.
It's like I'm working so hard by myself for this thing that I believe in. But when you can find those other folks who believe in that same change and who believe in that same path, it is empowering.
Yeah.
Even if those people don't have the funds or the ability to change policy, just knowing that there are other people who are still moving towards this goal with you, alongside you, changes the current. It's not as strong anymore.
That's right. That's why we created our circle community. That's awesome.
That's
Are
right.
there any final thoughts, anything that we might have missed that you want to share with our community as we close? It's been, I could talk to you all day. This has been absolutely amazing.
I think there's so much that I want to say that it's hard to know what, but I think I just really want to encourage family members to try to connect and to, create a community around this and speak to their public schools and potentially their private schools. And I want educators who feel like they're lost out there, kind of being weirdos, to start connecting with each other. And I want people to build community around this change that needs to happen. I want to let people know that if you share these values, you're not alone. We just need to find each other. Yeah. And I really believe that this is something access to nature, but nature-based education should be a right for everybody. And it should be a right for all of our children, regardless of where they come from and where their families are nestled and what opportunities they may or may not have. And I really think that we need to continue to cultivate that for their well-being, for our collective well-being, and for our Earth's well-being.
Yeah, it seems like such a no-brainer, but to think that we would need an equity coordinator to remind us that of all of the inequity and that we have a lot of work to do. And I just feel what you are doing and what you represent is incredible. And the energy that you have put into this program and the gifts that you have given, I'm getting goosebumps, the gifts that you have given the children and all of their families. But what I also love is the stories that you were telling of the children that would come back to you with their memories and now how they're becoming advocates of nature and whatnot. And the beauty is then they have this knowledge that the Arnold Arboretum is right there. Mm-hmm. And it's public access, and that they can then take their families there. And so it's this beautiful sort of circle of life, but it really needs someone like you and like a lot of folks in this business or in this passion world of nature and to be the catalyst of change.
Right.
And I just want to thank you for that, because you are definitely a catalyst of change. And I am so honored that our paths have crossed and look forward to many more crossings so we can not work in our singular silos, but like you said, work as more of a community, which is really, truly what it's all about.
Thank you so much, Victoria. Now I've got goosebumps. Yeah, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed chatting with you.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you again.
Take care.
Thank you for joining us here at the Outdoor Classrooms podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with anybody who you think would enjoy it, and follow us on Instagram. We'd love to continue the conversation. If you want to continue the conversation even deeper, please join us in the Circle community. The purpose of the Circle is to support, guide, and push you as you continually grow and sustain your outdoor classroom by providing the tools to help you set the right goals, then actually follow through in achieving those goals with the support of our amazing community. Each month, 24/7, you get guidance and support from myself. You get to begin your journey with our new member roadmap. You get access to our outdoor teaching boot camp. You get to interact and learn from guest experts who are on our podcast. They come into our membership and join us to continue the conversation. You get to connect and collaborate during 2 live sessions a month. You get access to all our online workshops and masterclasses. You get to dig deeper with our membership missions each month, and you get to become an ambassador of joy for children. I hope you can join us. You get all of this. You get to become a member of our family at Outdoor Classrooms. So I hope you can join us. I will share the link in the show notes, and we'll see you later. Come join us.